Is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. We'll be starting the webinar in about 5 minutes. So just hang tight as people come on. Thank you. We'll be starting the webinar in a couple minutes, everybody, just letting everybody get on. So we have a few more minutes till 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern. So a few more minutes, just letting everybody come on. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our first inventory management webinar. This is to show our new inventory management system that'll be coming out on June 24th. We'll be going through the whole demonstration of the inventory system. We'll take questions at the end, so please hold your questions till the end, and we'll do a Q&A after we're done. And I'm going to get started and kind of go through everything. And if any questions come up, again, just save them till the end and we'll go through and answer them for you. So I'm going to start off with our product manager. All of you who are ProjX360 users should be familiar with this. We did add a feature into a product now with inventory coming out. So when you go inside of a product, we have a new inventory tab here. On the inventory tab, this is where you can set up your UPC for that product, so it's unique. You can set up if it's a serial product, a bulk product, a lot product, or a non-inventory product itself. You'll see status of how many of this product you have on hand, how many of them are committed, and you can actually click on the committed to see what transfers they might be committed to, or what product requests they're associated with, which we'll get more into those items in a little more detail throughout the demonstration. You can set your minimum of the minimum you want on hand, the maximum you want on hand, and then you can actually set a warning. So besides minimum, you can actually say maybe in this case at 3, I want to be notified that we have low stock to replenish that. We can see we have a log of all the actions that have ever been done with this product in each warehouse that you can click on and go into. When you go into the inventory system itself, you can set up multiple warehouses in our system. So you can set up as many warehouses as you'd like. You'll have your main warehouse, and you might have a couple main warehouses. You can create as many virtual warehouses like rack assembly or whatever you want, but then also you can make each one of your vehicles a warehouse. When you do go into a warehouse, you can just click on it, and it'll take you into the dashboard here, but we're going to cover kind of setting up a warehouse first. So when you go into a warehouse and go to warehouse settings, and when you're creating it, you can give your warehouse a name, and you can come and edit that name at any time. You can give it a physical address if it is a real warehouse, email, phone, all that kind of good stuff. You can set up what type of warehouse it is. Is it a physical warehouse or is it a virtual warehouse? And then you can decide if you want to receive product here or not. And receiving product is not transferring, because you can transfer between warehouses. This is if you actually want to have purchase orders received at this warehouse. This is actually where you're receiving product from your distributors or manufacturers. You can set up a bin prefix. So when you're adding bins or shelves, you can it'll automatically prep this prefix. So for instance, if I go in here and go to create a new bin, my prefix of main shelf, meaning main warehouse, shelf number, and then all you have to do is enter, whatever shelf number that is. And you can continue, just keep adding bins or shelves or whatever to that warehouse, and they populate over here. You can decide, you can add users, and then when you do add a user, you can determine what permissions they have in that warehouse. And the permissions are manage the warehouse, transfer inventory, inventory adjustments, add and edit inventory, receive POs, and add and edit sales orders. Also, when you're going through that, you go back to the warehouse dashboard. You can click on the cog and go to warehouse dashboard. So each warehouse will have its own dashboard. And on this dashboard, you can see how many products are in that warehouse, and this is clickable to go into. You can see what if any products in the minimum warning or low stock warning right here. And again, these are clickable to go into, so you can actually see what it is. You can see what the cost value of that warehouse is and the retail value of that warehouse. You can see the last time you did a cycle count. And you can also see any pending ingoing or outgoing transfers. You can see any open purchase orders, and then you can filter the purchase orders by what's in draft mode, what's been sent to the supplier, what's been partially shipped, what's been shipped, what's been received, or what's been archived. You can also down here, as you scroll down, if you start scanning in and receiving any POs but don't finish them, they'll list here so you don't forget to finish receiving those POs in. And again, we have a log of any transaction that's ever been done in this warehouse that's clickable to go into and see the details of that warehouse log. So we can order product a variety of different ways now. The most common way is going to be when you're going and creating a project from a proposal. If you recall, you know you can push that proposal over and it creates the project. So I'm going to go into a project here, and I pushed a proposal over. So you can now click on this and pull up the proposal, and you can filter this by location, by phase, by brand, by model number, and by system. And then you can also, this is going to be kind of where your project manager is going to select the product they need to be ordered for this project at this time. So they can pick whatever filter they want, and then they can hit the control button down and select the product they need to request. Oh, that one. And if we click on something that's already been requested, it'll give you the warning that it's already been requested. They can click on the product that they want to add to the product request. So they highlight all the product they want, and they can go add to product request. And that'll then change the status of that product to requested and sends it to the product request page, which we'll cover in a couple minutes. Another way you can actually add stuff to the product request page and have it associated with this project is, again, if you go into the project product and go to one-offs, you can add, so if anything, just one-off, like a customer added something or anything like that, you can go and add products right here, and it'll pull up a search for the product manager, and you can search the product manager for whatever you want, and you can select the product that you want to add here, and it'll bring it over. It'll bring over the quantity, and it'll give you a chance to add a reason of why you're adding this. And you can add that, and it'll add it right here into the one-offs, and then you can select that and send that over to the product request page also. Also new on the project details page, before I move into the product request page, you can actually see all the purchase orders that have ever been created, or product that's related on any purchase orders to this project. And you can, again, filter them by draft, what's been sent, what's been partially, what's been shipped, and what's been received and archived. Also, you can go over to the cog here, and there's installed products now. So you can see any products that have ever been installed on this project right here. And you can actually, if they ever do need to be returned after they've been delivered to the customer, you can actually return the line item to the warehouse and bring them back into the warehouse if you wish to do so from here. You can also see the PO status of any POs that are related to this and products. So you can see all the POs that are related to this project and see the status of them, if they're in draft, if they've been partially shipped, if they've been received, whatever status they're in, they'll see right here. So the project manager can always see what's been where the status is of all the POs for this project. But now that we sent some product to the product request page, your warehouse manager or your buyer will be working in this page. So if you go to the product request page, you can see all the product that's been requested, and it's filtered out by project here. And you can click on the project and see, and it takes you right into that project details page. So there is a shortcut right there for that. You can see from here, you can see the quantity you have on hand, what's been requested, how many have been queued to the PO queue, how many have been ordered, and how many have been allocated to this project. So when you're going through everything, you can, select the items that you want to send to the PO queue, for instance. So if you have a bunch of different, say, Crestron items that you want to add to the PO queue, you can do so and go up here and add it to the PO queue. And that'll send it over to what we call our purchase order queue. And if I go into the PO queue from here, just to show you a little bit, this is basically a queue of all products that's been requested that needs to create for purchase orders to be created. So you can send as many different products from as many different projects from the product request page into the PO queue, so your buyer can just create one large PO for all the Crestron gear or whatever it may be. And then they can filter this PO queue by product, by phase, by location, by system, or no grouping at all. So that's one option. But going back to that product request page, you can also create a PO. So you can select product that you want and go and create a purchase order if you wish. So like say if I wanted just to create that PO for some Crestron equipment for this particular project, I can just do that and go to create purchase order. It'll pull up the purchase order creation. You can auto-generate a title for a PO by just hitting that, and it'll auto-generate the next number that's in the background. And you can edit that later if you wish to do so, or you can just type a title in. You can select what client or project it belongs to. You can then select the supplier. And then you can select what address you want it shipped to. So you have a list of all your warehouses here, and you can select the warehouse you want it shipped to and hit OK. And it created that purchase order right here. And like I said, it auto-generated a PO number for you. If you do want to edit that, at this point, you can click on it and edit it the way you wish, so you don't have to worry about that. You can actually add more product if you want to. So if you need to add more product, you can click on Add Product, and it'll bring up it'll default to the supplier for this PO that you already selected, but you can actually hit all too and grab, if it's a distributor, that you can grab other manufacturers also to add product to that if you wish to do that. And then you can select whatever product and hit Add to PO, and it adds that product to the PO. You can see the status of it. You can see the status of the purchase order right here too. And these can be updated. So as you do receive things, this will get updated to if it's been shipped, if it's back ordered, if it's been partially shipped, discontinued, or received. And you can generate the purchase order by just clicking and downloading a PDF version of it. Or if you want to use our email feature, you can use our email feature, and it'll email a link to the supplier for that if you wish to do so. Going back to that product request page, you can also add product to an existing purchase order. So if I had some product that I wanted to add to an existing PO, I can select it and hit Add to Purchase Order, and it'll list all my open POs. So the PO does have to be in draft mode, and you can select any one of those POs that are still in draft mode to add it to that if you wish to do so also. You can also just create one-off POs in the PO section. So if you just want to create a one-off purchase order, you can do that also in the purchase order section. If you ever do need to remove any product that's been requested already, as long as it's not allocated, you will have to unallocate it first, and we'll cover allocation in a second. But if I wanted to remove this, I can highlight the line items I want to remove and delete request, and it'll delete the request from that project too, so you know, and it'll be non-requested, so your project manager or whoever can request it again in the future, but it can be removed from here too if you added something by accident, or if a project got delayed, you know, months, and you maybe had a bunch of requests in, you can unrequest and unallocate everything from there. When you go into a warehouse, well, actually going back to the product request, so you can actually also pick a project, and you can search by a project. So if I wanted this to see the Creative Sound inventory project, and as after product has been allocated, I can actually choose to create a transfer from it, which we'll cover. So you can select the product you want and go to fulfill request, and it'll start creating a transfer, which we'll cover transfers in a couple minutes. But now that the POs are created and sent out, as the product does come in, you'll be in your main warehouse, and you can receive product. So to receive product, just simply hit the cog and go to receive product. It'll list all your purchase orders right here. You can select the purchase order that you want to receive from, and then you can go to scan product, and you can grab your barcode scanner, and we'll list a bunch of different barcode scanners that we've tested. We have some nice little Bluetooth ones. You'll scan the UPC, it'll automatically pull up that product. If that product is a serial tracked product like this is, it's going to ask for a serial number, so that you'll then scan the serial number and hit OK to bring that in. And you can see on the bottom here how it brought it in, and you can continue to receive as much product as you want. Once you're done, you'll X out of here. You'll then go receive shipment, and it's going to tell you this will add the product to the warehouse, but the PO has not been marked completed, as there are still outstanding items on this PO. So we'll say receive shipment. It clears that out, and then it updates what's been ordered, what's been received, and what's outstanding right here. So you can go into the PO from here if you wish to do so, and click go to PO, and then in the PO you can see what's been partially received here, and you can actually go into the cog here and go to shipping history and see all your different shipments that you received against that PO, and the dates and everything, and what was received at those times. Now that the product's been received, you can go back to your product request, if it came from a product request page, and you can now allocate that product. So if I wanted to allocate some things, you'll simply click on the product. It'll show how many requested and how many are allocated, which in this case, I actually already allocated those. You can find it, so right here, you can hit allocate. So it'll list all the ones needed, and now it breaks it out by location. So you can see the product that's needed for this project by location. You can hit allocate. It'll then pull up the warehouses this product's available to allocate from, and I'm going to do it from the main warehouse in this case, and hit allocate, and it allocates that product. If I ever do need to deallocate anything, I can just click on this and come back to it and deallocate the product also. But now that I go in here and X out, that product has now been allocated to here. So I can then click on any product that has allocations to it to actually create and finalize the request. So this is what this is going to do, is create a transfer from the warehouse to whatever vehicle you're sending it to, or what other warehouse you're sending it to. And actually, even before that, if you want to stage it, you can click on the project right here to generate pick list, and it'll generate a pick list for you. It'll list all the brand, the the model, the quantity, the serial numbers if there are some, and where they are located in the warehouse. But you can select the ones you want, go over to fulfill request, click on it, and it starts the transfer process. And just like a purchase order, you can auto-generate a title. You can select the warehouse that you're going to, the destination warehouse, so maybe it's van 1. Also, if there is a work order that has been created that's related to this, you can actually search that and select that work order. So it associates the transfer to that work order also. You'll hit OK, and it then created the transfer. So now if we go into that van warehouse, we can see a pending incoming transfer right here. You can click on it. It'll take you to all the pending incoming transfers, and you can filter by what's open, what's been accepted, what's been rejected, what's been canceled, and what's been archived. When you click and go into a transfer, you can see the complete transfer. You can then go in here and either accept it or reject it. If they do reject it, it'll pop up and it'll allow them to type in a message of why they're rejecting it. So maybe it's missing some product, and they can type in here what other product they need, so the warehouse manager or whoever knows what to add. It'll then send it back to that warehouse, and it'll be under rejected in the dashboard, so they can see they got rejected transfers, and they can make the changes at that point. Or if everything looks good, they can accept the transfer. And this is actually now moving it from that other warehouse into this warehouse, and they can hit OK. And it completed that transfer. So now that transfer was completed and finalized. So now that transfer has been, it's on the van and everything, we can go into that work order and I'll pull that work order up that we associated it with. And now inside of our work orders, we added some more functionality. So in the line items, we have all the same functionality that we had before, that you can, select items from a proposal, from the product manager, from the checklists, and then generally just type things in. But now we also have inventory transfer. So we can select that, and then it'll show all the pending transfers that are related to this work order. Just select that and hit OK, and it brings all that product in from that transfer into the work order. You can also bring things in from any of the warehouses. So if you actually wanted to bring a product in from the warehouse, you can do so. So on the main warehouse, it'll show all the product that's in that warehouse. It's only going to show what's available that actually has stock. You can select it. You put in the quantity that you want and add that to the work order also if you wish to do so. So now that these were added, the technicians can, as they install things, check things off. And this is what's actually going to deliver it now from their van to the client. And so they had to hit that checkbox once. Another message comes up to make sure that they're actually installed this and that you're delivering it now to the client, and they're going to hit OK. And that's what actually delivered that to the client now. Any product they don't use, they can remove it from the work order. And then remember, it's still on that van. They can transfer it back from that van to the main warehouse. But as they do install things, or at the end after they installed it, they can go through and check everything off. And it checks it off, and it does stamp who checked it off and when for accountability on that. We also have, for views, when you go under inventory, you can see OnHand Product, where this basically shows all your product that you have on hand and the different warehouses they're at and where they're located in those warehouses. And then we also total the cost value of all your warehouses and retail value right there. And you can even filter this by warehouse or any kind of combination of warehouses if you wish to do so. We also have an installed products where this will list all your product that's ever been installed and by project. And again, in the search feature, you can, narrow down your search if you just want to see ABC company, and it'll show you all the product that's ever been installed at that location. We have a product aging page where you can see all your older products. So you can put in, if you want to see all the product last received before maybe April 10th, it'll list all that over here, and you can actually filter up here by last received. So if you want to know what your old stock is and kind of run through that, you can do that. And you can actually do that by all warehouses, your main warehouse, or whatever. You can filter by warehouses too. And then you can also do cycle counts, like I mentioned, in a warehouse. So you can do a cycle count as often as you'd like. Just go into the warehouse and go into cycle counts, and it'll first pull up all the existing cycle counts if you have any open ones, or just go to the cog and go begin cycle count, and it'll start the cycle count. It'll start the blind count for you on everything. And that covers pretty much everything on the inventory management system. So at this time, we'll open it up to questions, and I have Amy assisting me. So Amy's going to go through and we can start answering any of your questions.
Okay, first question we had is, for DTools users, can they filter proposals pushed from DTools?
So yes, I mean, once you push that proposal over into our system, you're going to take that proposal just like normal and either create a project or associate it to an existing project. And all that functionality I showed you that we have, you'll have just like we do if you created it in our system.
For QuickBooks Pro users, can you push POs from projects to QuickBooks?
Yes. So what's going to come up with Inventory 2 is that you'll be able, we're adding the purchase order feature. So you'll be able to push purchase orders into QuickBooks, both desktop and online.
For the cycle counts, does it randomly suggest, or do you have to select products based on value?
So it'll list everything that's in that warehouse, and it's a blind cycle count. So actually I can kind of go through, I can create a cycle count here since we're on here. So I'll go begin cycle count. It'll start it up. It'll list all the product. I'm in the main warehouse. I can give the cycle count a title, and then it just lists everything, and it's going to ask you to count. So you can click on here and put in your count of what each product is. When you're done, it'll ask you to reconcile, and it'll reconcile, and now you'll actually see, what you counted or what's been committed, what's on hands, and what you counted, and the variance difference. So any variances, and I don't think I have any data in here with anything with variances. If we did have variance differences, they would show here, and that you could do the adjustments accordingly if you want to edit the count, and then you can finalize the cycle count.
Are the UPC and serial fields unique per product?
UPCs have to be unique. So yes, so that most product comes with a UPC, or you can create one for it, because you can print labels, and serial numbers have to be unique also.
Does the product log show history of sales to customers?
Where you can see that is under installed products, where you can see it here. You can filter by customers here, or if you go into the project page like I showed you, you can see all the product that's been installed to that project by going to installed products here, and it'll show you all the products that have been installed for this project.
How are bulk and non-inventory items handled? So wire, plates, etc.
So how's bulk handled? It's not serial tracked. You just put in the quantity of how much you have on wire and stuff. We have a special feature that if you're doing it by foot, but you're actually buying it by what we call the case. So let's just take category 5 cable. You might have it set up in your product manager as a quantity of 1 for 1 foot, but you're buying it in 1,000-foot spools. When you go to create the purchase order, it's going to ask you if you want to buy it by foot or by each or by carton or by case. And in that case, you're going to do case, and it's going to know that 1 case equals 1,000. So if you need 1,200 feet, you'll order 2 cases, and then you'll allocate 1,200 feet to that project, and it'll leave you 800 feet left over in stock.
When receiving a product, does it allow you to edit the bin at that particular point, or does it place automatically in the allocated bin?
So when you first do it, if it's never been in the warehouse before, it'll let you select the bin you want to put it in. Once you have a bin established, when you receive it, it's automatically going to assign it to that bin. But then after you received it, you can go in and edit it and move it.
When you're receiving in items, can you generate a label for the product so that it can be scanned in or out for that job?
So we do allow, so there's some confusion with people on labels. So we do allow labels to be generated, and it's more for like the bulk pieces that don't have UPCs on each package. That we can generate, and you can generate that when you're inside of a warehouse or when you're receiving a product against a shipment. You can go, let me just go into an active warehouse here to show you. You can go and select the product and print labels. So I can select product I want to print a label for, and I can go to print labels. I don't have a label maker set up. It's going to ask you the quantities you want to do, and you're going to hit OK. And it's going to reach out. We're going to list, it's a Dymo printer that we found works the best. It'll create the label for it, but it's more the product, the serial number, the UPC, and all that kind of good stuff. To create a label that's more project specific of this product goes in the master bedroom for the Jones residence. We are going to do that. I'm not sure if that'll be out for release of inventory or not. We have it on our list. If we can get to it before release, we will. If not, it'll be out shortly after.
Can we see the cumulative warehouse with value? Have to tie that to QuickBooks?
I'm not sure you mean it. So you can go into, when I showed you can go to OnHand Products, and this is a cumulative across all your warehouses of all the product you have in stock and the cost value, and you can filter that by warehouse.
We have client shelves where equipment is waiting to be installed as well, stock shelves. So they're asking if they understand correctly. Would you say that in creating shelves in our inventory, is it a good idea for the client shelves for equipment received in from requested equipment?
Well, that could be cumbersome to you. I mean, you're talking more about staging and creating that pick list. So when you have that product request and you allocated product and you created a product, like a pick list for yourself to stage that, we can do that. I mean, you can create a bin, you can create a shelf or whatever you can call it, whatever you want. You're just going to be going in and editing a lot every time a job changes if you go that route.
In the products request page, does it sort by manufacturer of product?
So on the product request page, we're filtered by project first of all, and then you can filter by brands, you can filter by model, by product type. So you can click on any one of these and filter them.
Can the PO now list each product only once rather than repeated for each room?
Yes, the PO will consolidate all this stuff into, so if you selected, a couple Crestron HR 150s, especially from different projects, it'll, as it goes over to the PO queue or to the PO itself, it'll consolidate that into one line and whatever that quantity is.
When receiving a PO, can it automatically go into a customer bin?
If that's how if that product was set up that way, or if that product's never been received before, you can select what bin you want it to go in.
Is there going to be any reports for your total inventory cost on hand?
I've actually showed that a couple times. So on-hand product, this is all your product on hand across all your warehouses, and here's your cost value right here. And you can even filter that down by warehouse.
Does whatever status of product showing in the PO show in the proposal or work order?
No, it would never show in the proposal because we don't want our clients to see that. So in the project, when you go into a project again, you can see the PO status right here of any POs that have been created for this project and the status of each individual line item of that PO.
Can you force an automatically incrementing UPC code in the system so that every piece received gets a unique code? Our current system does this and calls it a receiver ID.
We do not have that. You'd have to manually generate. We don't auto-generate UPC codes.
Can you assign specific vendors for specific products?
Yes, in the product manager, when you're setting up your products, you can assign what your preferred vendor is. So if we go into a product and go into pricing, you can assign who your default vendor is.
Can we upload a list of products from a proposal, or do we need to enter each product manually?
Well, before you can create a proposal, you have to have product in your product manager. So you can add product to the product manager a couple different ways. If you're a new customer, we'll do a mass import for you, or you can just add products to the product manager right here. We are currently integrated with Portal. We are going to be sending an announcement out, just like they send an announcement out. They just notified us partners today that they are going to a paid model, which this actually might cause some problems with the integration with Portal. I'm waiting to set up a meeting and hear from Kirk on that. But you do have to build your product manager here just like normal. That part hasn't changed.
Does it track RMAs?
Yes, so RMA, now we're kind of getting out of inventory. So we already do service repair tickets. So we've already had that feature. So if you go under service and go to repair tracking, and you go in and create a service repair ticket for an existing piece of equipment in a customer, you can track your RMA, the tracking number, the date you shipped it out. You can set a reminder. But keep in mind, people, an RMA is not part of inventory because this is not your product anymore. This belongs to the client. This is a product that's in for service.
How is the same product with different purchase cost managed?
So it depends on you're bringing it in. If you're bringing in the equipment from a proposal to a product request, it's bringing the cost over from what you had in that system. When you're adding just one-off items to a PO, you can change the cost at whatever you want, but you're going to set up, when you set up your product, you're going to set up, in the product manager, when you're creating your product, the cost you pay 9 times out of 10. I know there's always exceptions and that changes, but you're going to set up your cost of what you pay the majority of the time inside the product manager.
How do you ensure that the products requested or ordered have been invoiced out to the customer?
Well, that goes into your invoicing side of things. So you can do invoicing a couple different ways. You can do progressive invoicing from the payment schedule in the proposal. You can, if you want to do a product request and then send all that stuff to the work order, from that work order that we were in, if you guys bill for as you deliver. So if I go back into this work order that I was in before, I can finish checking off what we delivered. And then from here, inside the work order, you can create an invoice for the customer. And to add things to the invoice, you can select the product from your work order that you had. So you can go to work order and it'll show all the line, what work order, you can select the work order you want. So I go into the inventory and it'll show me the lines here, and I can select the lines I want to add. And it brings all that into the invoice, and you can invoice the customer accordingly.
Can a PO status be ordered? Did not see that under statuses.
So the statuses for POs are as follows. So we have draft. Sent to the supplier means it's been ordered. Partially shipped means it's been partially shipped. Shipped means it's been shipped. Received, completed is received and closed.
What about RMAs back to the vendor? That affects inventory need to relieve inventory when the product ships back to the vendor?
If you need to return something to the vendor, you would probably have to create a transfer out to the vendor that you're delivering it back and removing it from your stock. Create a transfer out to that.
Can you customize any more of the layout of the invoices, adding in graphics or generating PDFs?
No, the invoice layouts haven't changed.
In order to move line items from a work order into an invoice, do I need to have the inventory module?
Yes, if you're tracking inventory, you can just bring product into an invoice from your product manager. If you're not tracking inventory, we've been able to always do that. But if you want to actually track inventory, yes, you're going to need to have the inventory module.
Is there going to be any flowcharts developed for how everything is going to work?
Yes, we'll put together a flow chart for best practices and workflow and everything. So yes, we will.
If they're in a work order and select invoice in the work order, can the ID auto-populate the items installed?
Can you repeat that, Amy? Again, repeat that question.
If they're in a work order and select invoice from the work order, can the ID auto-populate the items installed?
It doesn't. No, it won't auto. If I'm understanding the question correctly, it won't just auto bring the product into the invoice. No, you do have to go in and select it.
How do the text in the field edit work orders?
Well, they have to have permissions first, but when you go into a work order, if they do need to edit it and they got the permissions, they can just go to the edit button right here and edit things. You can't delete. We don't allow you to delete things in from a transfer or anything like that. If they've been marked off, like these have been completed and delivered, you can't. We don't allow you to edit those at this time.
Kind of two questions that from different people. They're wanting to know, is the inventory module chargeable extra? And how long is the pre-order pricing valid for? Will it go up to that $189 price that we list at some point?
Okay, yeah, so the inventory module is going to cost, once we deliver it, it's going to be $189 a month. And it's just one license. Either you're doing it or you're not by company. We are doing pre-orders up to release date, which is June 24th. And that goes down to $139 a month.
Someone wants to know just our release date for this.
The release date is June 24th.
Another question, can this essentially take the place of DTools and work cohesively with QuickBooks?
Well, DTools doesn't do inventory, so I mean, yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be replacing it. If you're talking about the proposal piece and stuff, it's kind of a different question. We do have a proposal module in our software. We don't do the line drawings like DTools does. So if you do use that, you're probably going to want to stay with DTools. But we do integrate with DTools. So, I mean, that's another conversation we can have. Whoever asked that can reach out to me and we can, set up a demo or something like that and discuss the options there.
Also for inventory, is it just one license? Does that only mean one user?
No, it doesn't mean one user. It just means for one company, we'll turn it on and stuff like that. If you recall, when you go inside of a warehouse, you can set up who has access, what users are part of that warehouse. So just give me 1 second here. Go into a warehouse, and then in the warehouse settings is where you can add employees, add users. And then you can, when you add a user, you can determine what permissions they have in warehouse.
Two questions here, kind of the same one. Is there going to be a mobile solution or an app out?
We do have an app already. So we have app for Apple and Android. You saw this whole demonstration on a tablet. I'm working on a Microsoft Surface Pro tablet right now.
Would you transfer from the main warehouse to a van to a work order, or just to the work order?
You'll do a transfer from the main warehouse to a van, but simultaneously, as long as that work order was created already, you can select that work order. So when you're creating that transfer, it's going to ask you what warehouse, which would be what van, and then it's going to also ask you what work order do you want to associate to it. And then at that point, you'd select the work order you want to, and then finish the transfer.
Is there going to be a certain date that $139 per month is valid for?
Like I mentioned, that's going to be good up to June 24th.
If you allocate a product to a job that is staged, how do you show that in your warehouse?
So how that shows, so if you go to the product request, it's going to show you, again, your product request list by project. And again, you can filter this out by project. So if I just wanted to see the Creative Sound project, I can see it right here. It's going to show you all the allocated product right here. So you can see what's on hand, what's been requested, what's been queued to the PO queue, what's been ordered, and what's been allocated, and what's still needed.
To expand on that inventory price you mentioned of $139, they're talking about if it was like a duration of the charge, is it a year or more?
The 139 is by month, and if you pre-order, all you have to do is pay for the first month until release, and then your recurring starts at release, and then you're locked into 139 for good.
We have a dedicated warehouse tech for receiving, shipping, and handling our equipment. Does that pose any unique workflow issues?
No, not at all. You're in a good position. I have the same thing in my own integration company.
Are we going to be having the inventory module on our Sandbox version?
Probably not to release. Once we release, we'll probably put it out there.
With the POs right now listing each item many times, is the inventory module going to be combining product counts?
Yes, it does. So on the PO, it'll be one line item for whatever the quantity is.
Are we placing this recorded webinar on anywhere online?
It'll go on our website by tomorrow.
Back to that same question with the POs and the product counts, are they going to need the inventory module to correct that?
Yes, they will need the inventory module for that.
Discounts for paying a year in advance?
Same thing as with everything else. You'll get an additional, you'll get the early bird and you'll get an additional 15% off. We're probably going to have to wrap it up here in the next couple minutes. Are there any more questions, Amy?
Another one, when they create a PO based off of a project, the bin location is the customer shelf. They said they assume when receiving in the PO, it will go into the proper customer bin versus having to go into a different screen to transfer that inventory.
So how the bins work is when you select, when you're setting up a product and putting a product in your warehouse, you're going to select the bin that you want that in. And that's when you receive a product, it's going to default to that. If it's a bulk item, you can actually even change that as you're receiving it if you wish to do so. But serial number ones are going to go to the specific bin. You will then have to go, if you do want to move that to another bin, you will have to go and change that bin number after you receive it.
Somebody missed the part where were you going to recommend scanner models?
We're going to list that on our website, and I'll send an email out about that. I haven't consolidated all that yet. Well, if there's no more questions, we'll probably wrap this up. Any more questions, Amy?
Just some of the same ones like the PDF or user manual. Yes, we'll be putting out a flowchart or a general guide for inventory.
Okay. Well, thank you. We want to thank everybody for taking the time out of their busy schedule to watch this webinar. We are going to be having a couple more before we do release. So thank you for your time. We look forward to any other questions you have. You can send to support@ProjX360.com. And thank you again for your time, and have a great rest of your day.